Hey, what's up, guys? It's Fizzy Fox TV here, and I'm back at it again with another YouTube video. And today we're going to be showcasing the top best Street Fighter games from 1 through 6. I know there's a lot more Street Fighter games, and I will be talking about some honorable mentions, but I've decided to break this list down just a little bit because there are just a fewer good Street Fighter games, and that's just my personal opinion. And, you know, since I do have the 30th anniversary collection edition, I was able to play every Street Fighter, and I can dissect personally, and it gave me time to dissect it, you know what I'm saying, to see what was peak, what was, you know, what was going to be the future of the whole entire franchise. So guys, before we even hop on into this video, I want you guys to follow my Facebook and my Discord so we can always stay connected as a community. Let's hop right on into this video. Okay guys, so for my top number 6 spot, I'm gonna have to put Street Fighter 5. I don't even care because I just feel like the direction they could have took without putting all those weird guest characters. I mean, I didn't mind the guest characters. I more like didn't like the story direction, and I didn't like how they didn't just pick up where they left off. It kind of just had fans confused over the years of where they were going personally, and even me myself. I loved a lot of the newer characters, yeah, but they were very bland, and the game was pretty bland. I mean, it could have been better, but the upside of everything, it made good tournament, you know, presence and stuff like that. Like it did its 1-2. Like Street Fighter 5 isn't as bad as what people say, but then again, it kind of lacks what we kind of expected out of it. And for the graphics engine they were using at the time, I feel like they could have just did a lot more, especially with stages and, you know, not incorporating any originality as well. I mean, like, they tried, you know, they had Fang, which was an unnecessary character, and they had a couple other new characters, which I didn't really care about because, you know, it still felt bland. It didn't add to the roster, in my opinion, and we still played the original characters regardless. And I just didn't see where they were trying to go with Street Fighter 5, honestly. I feel like to this day, it's just very unfinished. And, you know, it had a lot of good qualities to it. I mean, it was our introduction to Armika again. It was our introduction to Charlie Nash. You know, we got a lot of other new characters. And, you know, because it's been so long since I played Street Fighter 5. And, you know, it definitely brings back memories of what we thought could have potentially happened or it could have been. But, you know, it was the start of something new, and you could tell the direction they were trying to go into. And, you know, it made, you know, 6 made up for everything, so I can't really even be mad at Street Fighter 5. But one thing about it is I am going to keep it real, like on a competitive standpoint as well, it's kind of like not all the way up there in my opinion either. And if this was like a top 10 best fighting games, Street Fighter 5 would not even be on a top 10. And that's just me personally. And, you know, I love the vibrant colors, you know, what they've done with Street Fighter 5 and how, you know, they at least tried with the story. But I would have to keep it 1,000, guys. Street Fighter 5, I did have my moments. I did have a lot of cool, fun, memorable moments of playing all the characters and stuff like that. I've even purchased the game a couple of times on a few of my accounts whenever I couldn't access a few of my accounts whenever I wanted to play Street Fighter. Because, you know, Street Fighter 5 was the only Street Fighter game for a long time before Street Fighter 6. So since we have 6 now, though, you know, it definitely changes the game. Let's just start there. And there's definitely better titles than Street Fighter 5. But since Street Fighter 5 did improve on a lot of things from like 4 and making it more fun and easier to play, I'll give them that. So I'm going to have to rank Street Fighter 5 as my top 6 spot on this list. Guys, you know, I don't even know how I can say this very respectfully, but Ken in that game looked terrible. You know, a lot of the character designs looked very weird to me. So I actually did enjoy Street Fighter 5. I feel like if you're trying to play Street Fighter for the fun aspect of the game and you don't want to take it as seriously, I do definitely think that 5 should deserve a top 6 spot, honestly, because they actually did, you know, perfect a lot, but they also lacked a lot. So that's why it's my top number 6 spot once again. And we're gonna hop into the next Street Fighter game. Okay, so for my next pick, for number 5, I'm gonna have to pick Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. A pinnacle of 2D fighting games and a community favorite for decades. Like, literally I know exactly what direction they were going in. It was such a beautiful start of something new. Street Fighter 2 is such a classic game that it's really hard for me not to even put it on, a top five spot because, especially coming with the competitive background of the game and the fact that it actually defined what 2D fighting games were to begin with. It rests my case. This is literally the genre that defined 2D fighting games, and I can't sit here and rank it any. I can rank it higher, but you see, since it's an older game, and this is actually, I would say, I wouldn't even say peak Street Fighter in all honesty, because we didn't get that until until we started getting Street Fighter 3, Alpha, and then we got Third Strike, and then we got all those other different variations of 2, because I know that this is not the only version of 2 that they have, because I know they experimented a lot with the Street Fighter franchise over time, especially throughout that time period of the 90s. So at the end of the day, guys, I would have to rank Street Fighter Turbo 2 Turbo as my number 5 spot. And since it was released in 1992, you know what I'm saying, we also got to give credit to as well, because it also inspired a list of other 2D fighting games. And we got a lot of good ones out of the bunch, especially, Street Fighter being their inspiration and everything. And, and especially when we got, Chun-Li, and being the very first female fighting game character ever, or female, because we had Miss Pac-Man and everything, but Chun-Li defined what it was, you know what I'm saying? To be, a big representation of, a company and what they've done with Chun-Li over the time of Street Fighter and the development and everything. They have came so far with the Street Fighter franchise, and honestly, especially, with all the characters, and, it's just seeing it from where it started and how they even got every character to, be who they are today. We got to thank Capcom for that. We got to thank the development team and everything, for sure. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to have to rank Street Fighter 2 Turbo as my number 5 spot. Now let's hop right on into the next Street Fighter game.
A few moments later.
Okay, guys, for my number 4 spot, I had to think long and hard about this one, because personally, I saw a pre-done list, right, of all the games ranked. And when I tell you what made me laugh so hard is when they put Street Fighter X Tekken on a top 5 list as one of the best Street Fighter games. And when I tell you, I died of laughter. It's so full of crap. It's so full of bull. You know what I'm saying? That, I had to come out here and give you guys this video. You feel what I'm saying? But I thought long and hard about this, and I'm gonna have to rank X-Men versus Street Fighter as my top number 4 pick, mainly because as unfinished or as not, unperfect the game is, and I get it, from critics and certain people who judge the game based on, even the arcade releases and stuff like that. I get it, certain things aren't perfect, but it's definitely a way more perfected, game than Street Fighter X Tekken. I would definitely not be putting that on my top 3. Nowhere near. So it's just kind of ridiculous how they even did that. I actually find it quite disrespectful to the Street Fighter franchise that they even tried it, to be honest. I'm still stuck on that. It's just so insane. But X-Men versus Street Fighter brought us vibrance, colors. It's the first time we get to actually see them in action, all the X-Men characters, and they all have a unique play style. Capcom did their big one on their end, showcasing characters, to their fullest extent. That's, the Marvel vs. Capcom series, the Street Fighter versus X-Men, those type of series, the type of, fandom they hold, and the type of communities and the type of fan base that they have, is kind of hard to also get them out of the competitive scene as well too, because then there'll be tournaments set up to where you'll have Marvel vs. Capcom 2, original Marvel vs. Capcom, then X-Men versus Street Fighter, all these other ones lined up. It's like a bunch of classical games kinda all in one, at those tournaments and stuff like that. So I get it, what I'm saying? It's just a reoccurring game that's played a lot. I can't not put this on my, and this is also my personal preference, so I don't really even care what nobody has to say. I personally feel like X-Men versus Street Fighter deserves this spot also because of character sprites as well, and them keeping up to date with everything, and the fact that Capcom has been producing a lot of, the Marvel games, and they do a pretty good job, I'm not gonna lie. And, But since Marvel has been owned by Disney for a long time, it actually messed up a lot of, great games from this upcoming, future and stuff like that, because we was actually supposed to receive a lot of newer titles, especially from Capcom. But I get it, business issues and the fact that people have other plans, and the fact that Marvel is always owned by somebody else, and it's not Capcom's fault. So I mean, it's not like I don't think Capcom wants to produce and Capcom wants to be a part of the whole development of Marvel vs. Capcom or X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I just feel like they're having a lot of licensing issues and a lot of like different type of because they need to have ownership of a lot of these characters in order to even have the privilege or even have to say so. They have to, they have to give them the green light. Unless they don't give them the green light, it'll never happen. Especially when I genuinely don't think this is Capcom's fault. Especially these times around, as far as why there's not another crossover. But at least you guys can understand, like, who knows? People may be getting underpaid. You never know. You never know what goes on behind closed doors. But that's another story for another day. But I'm going to have to rank X-Men vs. Street Fighter as my top 4 spot. So let's hop right on into the next Street Fighter game. Okay, so now, guys, we're getting really spicy in here. Like, I'm talking about real life spicy. I'm talking about, we had our final 3 picks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to have to, give you guys a short little, there is some honorable mentions, yes, that, I could have put into this whole entire last final 3. But I decided to make my top number 3 spot Street Fighter 6, and just hear me out. Though it was the most complete overall package, modern accessibility, replayability, and legacy appeal, topping many 2025 and 2026 lists, but you can't even be mad because it made a top 3, you know what I'm saying? And Street Fighter 6 will probably make a top 10 in a lot of people's lists now. And it does make a lot of sense, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I see why people love Street Fighter 6, and, it has a lot of flaws, don't get it twisted, because not every, game is perfect, not for nothing. And it does have little things that maybe they should change about it early on so that it's not such a big deal when, they are going through patches and little updates and stuff like that, and people are complaining, oh, this character is not this way or that way. It's just, I don't want to hear that no more. I'm tired of like this nerf stuff that people be talking about on their channels and stuff like that to justify their loss or their win, or to make it seem like that's the biggest issue. Like, just perfect these games and make them better, you know what I'm saying? And if there's any earlier issues early on, I think they should fix it now. The fact that we have Mai Shiranui making her appearance in Street Fighter, and the fact that we got Ingrid coming up as a DLC character, there's only so much stuff that I expect more from the series. And, I expect a lot of things going forward. Just, coming down to updates, certain things. I just hope that they go in the right direction, going down to Street Fighter 6 and take very good care of that game. Because this could be the future of what we'll have for the next 10 years. And I know that Street Fighter, for a fact, it may never, die out at all, because as diehard, fighting game fans, we would never let such a thing happen. And I'm so happy they improved on so much from 5, though. It's like, there's stuff that I can complain about. All right, the game may be a little slower, or there might be a little bit of like technical difficulties with certain things, but this is the most complete Street Fighter game, and this is the most they ever gave us, honestly, packed all into one. On a competitive standpoint, it's actually up there as well too. And some of the characters and most of the characters are almost at their perfected stages, and I can't sit here and complain. I can't sit here and actually be that upset, because they did everything they said they were going to do, and they actually pushed limits with Street Fighter 6 and actually perfected. And netcode isn't even that bad, So, that's not what I really expect from Street Fighter anyway, is bad netcode, because I feel like personally Street Fighter always had a decent netcode. Like, yeah, there was times where it wasn't the best, internet, but, Street Fighter has always came through with that type of stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, Street Fighter 6, just in my opinion, guys, deserves this top 3 spot. Like, it could be higher, but there's just better games, and there's, still games that people competitively play to this day that hold a stronger fan base than even the newer games, which I have to say, that's actually pretty embarrassing. Not gonna lie, like, as much as we want to promote it and be happy about it and be like, oh yeah, people still playing older games, but it actually is a sad look, because it just shows that there's no originality, and y'all guys are just going around in circles publishing games that y'all think people like, and y'all will never sell as much as y'all old predecessors or y'all old versions of y'all games. So I get it, but it is what it is. As a fighting game, though, this is one of the bigger fighting games of last year in 2026. So I'm gonna have to rank Street Fighter 6 as my most favorite Street Fighter game, and also right now it's been my most played. So, but yeah, Street Fighter 6 takes my number 3 spot. Let's hop on to the next Street Fighter game. Okay, guys, this wasn't really that hard at all for these last 2 spots right here, but I'm gonna have to rank Street Fighter Third Strike as my number 2 spot on this list, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Yes, and we're gonna have to talk about the ups and downs real quick, because Street Fighter Third Strike is actually pretty broken. I'm not gonna lie. It's probably one of the most broken Street Fighter games because of the parry system, and then you got, you know, a nice selection of, you know, characters. You know, you got a nice little roster going on. You got a few new, you know, characters and stuff like that they showcase within Third Strike, which actually made up for a good story. And we actually probably got one of the most best characters, probably the best characters from Third Strike as well too, going along with Alpha. And you know, I was having a debate a little bit whether or not if I should put Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max or Street Fighter Alpha 3 at this spot. But then again, Street Fighter Alpha 3 does play weird, and I don't think that people understand that. Like, it's the most closest thing to modern day Street Fighter, but is it really all that? You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, Street Fighter 3 is the most closest to modern day Street Fighter than any other Street Fighter game. As far as like 90s and mid and late 90s Street Fighter releases, yeah, I'm going to put Street Fighter Third Strike as the best out of all of them, in my opinion, at one of the best. And you know, it's often voted the best Street Fighter ever because of its mechanics, animation, and iconic Evo moments as well too. You know, it has too many great moments with Street Fighter 3, you know, especially with, you know, the very strong competitive and tournament presence and everything, and the fact that people still go on to play Street Fighter Third Strike till this day. And like I said in the previous, you know, number we just did, you know, it's really starting to get real sad out here, because one thing about it is that I'm not going to sit here and lie, especially to fans and people who love Street Fighter. The fact that it has a way stronger community and, you know, competitive background and strong cult fan base, I'm going to keep it real as well. You know, if it wasn't the closest to what we have in modern day Street Fighter, their characters wouldn't still be promoted, and they still wouldn't be in every, you know, almost Street Fighter release. I mean, we mostly got Third Strike characters inside of the Ultra Street Fighter, you know, 4 edition, you know what I'm saying? And that showed a lot, you know, and it actually said a lot, because now, you know, Third Strike has just had a very big impact on the gaming community, guys. It's really hard to not rank it as a number 2 spot, and I would have put it at number 1 if a certain Street Fighter game didn't exist. So we're gonna hop on to our final pick for the top best Street Fighter games 1 through 6, and let's hop right on into it. Okay, guys, for my top most best Street Fighter game of all time, and is it really a shocker to you guys, but I'm gonna have to put as my number 1 spot Ultra Street Fighter 4. You know, it's known for its competitive era of gaming, you know what I'm saying? You know, it was the most competitive I feel like Street Fighter has ever gotten. And it had a massive roster, refined balance, defined a generation of tournaments, and you know, it is the longest lasting, I'm pretty sure, 2D fighting game, if that, to ever be in a competitive scene for so long as well, going alongside, you know, Super Smash Bros. Melee. And since it had like a 2008 release as well too, and for them to advance from then on and add all those characters, you know, I was very pleased to see a lot of the Third Strike characters. We got you know, Makoto back, we got Dudley back, we got a lot of like the classical old school Third Strike characters. It really brought life to the game. I feel like it's the most colorful of Street Fighter, and I actually like the art style of Street Fighter 4 better. I like that it's not trying too hard to be something different, and it actually stuck by the natural source of what made Street Fighter. Sticking to the natural source sometimes and sticking to what originally made it good is sometimes what works, and I feel like after Third Strike they definitely advanced. I mean, there was a lot of mechanical advantages that you had with certain characters, and everybody was diversely who they were. Everybody had their own specials. Everybody's specials actually looked way better in Street Fighter 4. Everything just looks pretty much put together, and it looks like it's supposed to be there, you know? It doesn't, it's like, yeah, on a graphical standpoint, you know, yeah, it's gotten better with 6 and 5 and stuff like that with certain stuff, but due to being one of the biggest competitive scenes in probably fighting game history so far, especially, you know, due to it being a modern day Street Fighter game for such a long time as well too, because you got to also understand this game has been out for at least like 6 to 8 years before we got, Street Fighter 5. So I'm not really shocked that, people still going back to this game, showing it love, and I love all the support y'all guys give it. Oh my gosh, I love seeing Street Fighter 4 still be competitive to this day and have Evo presence. And if it didn't have such a big, community, guys, and there's still pages, still certain things that are promoting Street Fighter 4 Ultra. It's just like, that just shows that go back to the basics, go back to what made it great. And also, the only thing for these games that they need most times is just better graphics, and that's it. And I've always said that. But, it is what it is, and, a larger moveset. And a lot of these games will be fixed, I'm telling you now. But Street Fighter 4 Ultra definitely defines the definition of what I feel like a full-on Street Fighter game is. And honestly speaking, this was very fun to make. Oh my gosh, because I love the Street Fighter franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises ever in the planet. It's one of my very first fighting games as well, alongside Dead or Alive and Tekken and stuff. So honestly, guys, it was fun, talking to you guys and making this video and stuff like that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Don't forget to click that notification bell so you guys can be notified every time that I upload. And deuces.